The year is 1936, and Italy is holding its breath as Mussolini steps up to the microphone. The world listens closely, because Europe is changing fast, and tensions are at an all-time high. Every word spoken now carries the weight of history. Mussolini knows this, and he's about to deliver an address that will echo through the decades and shape Italy's future forever. This isn't just another speech. This is a turning point. The address that Mussolini gives tonight is set against the backdrop of Italy's recent victory in Ethiopia, a conquest that has altered the balance of power. Europe is unsettled. Britain and France watch nervously, uncertain of Mussolini's next move. Alliances shift overnight as each nation wonders who will make the first move toward war. Tonight, Mussolini declares boldly, Italy has regained its rightful place among the great powers of Europe. The pride he speaks of resonates deeply with millions of Italians. They have long felt humiliated and ignored by the major powers, and Mussolini knows how to stir their hearts with passionate promises of glory and national strength. He speaks directly to their pride, their pain, and their hopes for redemption. He recalls vividly the humiliation Italy suffered after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles left Italy embittered, feeling betrayed by its allies, who promised much but delivered little. Mussolini vows, never again. Italy will no longer beg for scraps at Europe's table tonight. Italy demands respect and recognition from a world that ignored them for too long. The speech ignites a fervent nationalism. Crowds fill Rome's Piazza Venezia, eager to support their leader. They chant Mussolini's name in a rhythmic wave of enthusiasm, fueled by promises of prosperity and military strength. This spectacle is exactly what Mussolini wants Europe to see, a unified, powerful Italy ready to reclaim its place on the world stage. Mussolini announces Italy's vision for the future, highlighting ambitious plans to modernize industry and infrastructure. He describes new highways, railways, factories, and entire cities rising rapidly from the earth, creating jobs and economic prosperity. Italians listening at home feel their hearts quicken. This is the future they dreamed of, and Mussolini is their guide. Behind these promises lies a darker truth. However, Mussolini's speech signals not just economic growth, but also a stark warning to Europe. He hints clearly at territorial ambitions, referencing Italy's destiny in the Mediterranean and Africa. His words unsettle Britain and France, who know that Italy's aspirations mean potential conflict in their own colonies. Mussolini understands that words alone are not enough. He needs tangible proof of Italy's power. He highlights the recent successes in Ethiopia, emphasizing how quickly and decisively Italian forces conquered a proud independent nation. This victory, Mussolini proclaims, is proof that Italy can no longer be underestimated or ignored. Britain is especially concerned by Mussolini's ambitions. They have substantial interests in Egypt and the Suez Canal, essential routes for trade and military operations. Mussolini's references to the Mediterranean as an Italian lake send chills through the corridors of power in London. Britain realizes they must prepare quickly or risk losing strategic influence. France, too, watches warily as Mussolini continues his bold declarations. Italy's aspirations threaten French colonies in North Africa. France, already nervous about rising German aggression, now faces a possible two-front challenge. Italy's rise could dramatically alter France's strategic position, forcing them to make difficult decisions quickly or face catastrophic consequences. In Germany, Hitler listens closely to Mussolini's words. He sees a potential ally, one who shares his ambition to redraw the European map. Hitler's regime reaches out immediately, seeking a partnership that could change the course of history. Europe's fragile balance of power teeters dangerously as Italy and Germany move closer together. Mussolini's speech has immediate effects across Europe. Markets react dramatically. Investors fear instability. Stocks plummet in London and Paris as uncertainty takes hold. Businesses halt. Expansion plans and trade slows considerably. Economic consequences ripple outward, affecting everyday lives as food prices rise and unemployment climbs in cities already struggling with poverty. In Rome, however, Italians celebrate the speech as a great victory. Thousands march proudly waving Italian flags, eager to embrace Mussolini's vision. National pride is at an all-time high, but beneath this fervor lies uncertainty. Citizens privately wonder if their nation is truly prepared for the conflicts Mussolini hints are inevitable. International reaction grows swiftly. Diplomats urgently discuss possible responses. Alliances begin shifting rapidly. Britain and France consider strengthening ties to counterbalance Mussolini's aggression. Meanwhile, Germany sees opportunity forming closer bonds with Italy. Conversations in diplomatic circles across Europe become tense as nations scramble to assess their next moves. Mussolini remains undeterred, confidently pressing forward with his plans. Military buildup accelerates across Italy. New warships, tanks, and aircraft roll off production lines at an unprecedented rate. Factories run day and night, staffed by workers inspired by patriotic fervor but unaware of the storm that approaches. Italy's youth especially embrace Mussolini's vision. Thousands enlist voluntarily, eager to serve their country. Recruitment posters plaster every street corner depicting heroic scenes of military triumph. Young men and women feel a surge of pride, eager to prove their loyalty and bravery without fully realizing the horrors that await them. The Church also watches Mussolini closely. Pope Pius X, deeply concerned over growing militarism and its moral implications, weighs speaking out publicly. Tensions mount between the Vatican and Mussolini's government. A silent struggle unfolds behind closed doors, adding yet another layer of complexity to Italy's rapidly evolving political landscape. Across the Atlantic, the United States observes warily. Isolationist sentiment runs strong among American citizens who vividly remember the horrors of World War I. Politicians debate fiercely whether America should intervene or remain neutral. Mussolini's address pushes this debate into overdrive as Americans realize they can no longer ignore events unfolding in Europe. As Mussolini concludes his speech, the world sits on the edge of uncertainty. The applause in Rome is deafening, but beyond Italy's borders, fear and apprehension dominate conversations. Europe knows it stands at a crossroads, and the next move could change everything forever tonight. Mussolini has set Italy on a path from which there may be no turning back. But no one realizes just yet the catastrophic consequences Mussolini's bold words will unleash and how quickly events will spiral out of control as Italy moves confidently forward. The rest of the world braces for impact, unaware of just how swiftly disaster is approaching. As the echoes of Mussolini's speech fade away, Europe scrambles urgently to respond. Diplomats frantically arrange emergency meetings, seeking ways to contain Italy's newfound confidence. The League of Nations convenes immediately, attempting to find a diplomatic solution before tensions explode into open conflict. Britain mobilizes, quickly reinforcing its Mediterranean Fleet naval bases in Malta. Gibraltar and Egypt receive additional warships and troops readying for potential confrontation. British politicians grapple with the difficult choice between appeasement and confrontation, knowing either decision carries significant risk for their global empire. France finds itself trapped between threats from Germany and Italy. Military preparations ramp up along France's southern borders. Troops stationed in Tunisia and Algeria receive urgent orders, fortifying defenses along key points. Supplies, weapons, and ammunition flow steadily into North Africa, preparing for an Italian invasion France hopes will never come. In Berlin, Hitler sees Mussolini's defiance as validation of his own expansionist plans. Immediately, German diplomats visit Rome to discuss a potential alliance. Talks move quickly, as both nations share ambitions to rewrite European borders. Germany and Italy begin joint military exercises, sending a clear message to Britain and France that a powerful new axis is forming. The Vatican becomes increasingly vocal privately, warning Mussolini of the catastrophic consequences his aggressive policies will bring. Pope Pius X contemplates an unprecedented public condemnation, but remains cautious, fearful of sparking retaliation against Italian Catholics. Tensions mount dangerously between church and state, adding internal pressure to Mussolini's government. Economic uncertainty intensifies. Markets remain volatile with investors. Withdrawing capital from European banks, unemployment rises rapidly, exacerbating social tensions. Businesses shut down factories, reduce hours and layoffs, increase families across Europe struggle to afford basic necessities, adding desperation and anger to the mounting political crisis. In the United States, isolationist politicians urge neutrality, pointing to the devastating losses of World War I. Newspapers publish alarming headlines, highlighting Europe's descent into chaos. Americans debate, passionately unsure whether they should intervene to stop the growing Axis threat, or remain distant spectators hoping conflict never reaches their shores. Meanwhile, Mussolini's popularity surges at home. Italian newspapers praise his strength and decisiveness, feeding nationalist fervor. Citizens rally enthusiastically behind their leader, unaware of the true human cost that lies ahead. Mussolini encourages this patriotic fervor, knowing he must maintain support as he prepares Italy for war. The military buildup continues. Unabated factories churn out advanced fighter planes, bombers, and artillery production quotas skyrocket. As Italy moves rapidly toward a war footing, military parades become daily events in major cities, showcasing Italy's growing might, reinforcing public confidence, but also masking the enormous financial strain on the nation's economy. Mussolini knows war is inevitable, despite public reassurances. Privately, he instructs his generals to finalize invasion plans targeting strategic territories in North Africa, and the Mediterranean military commanders quietly position troops and equipment, preparing for a decisive first strike meant to catch Europe completely unprepared. With tensions at breaking point, Britain and France finally unite diplomatically, forging an alliance aimed directly at countering Italian aggression. They warn Mussolini in stark terms that further provocations will be met with force. This clear ultimatum puts Europe on high alert as nations brace for imminent conflict. But Mussolini refuses to back down. He sees this ultimatum as confirmation that Europe fears Italy's strength emboldened. He orders his military to accelerate preparations, knowing the time to strike is fast approaching. Europe is rapidly running out of options as the continent inches closer to war. Yet an unexpected crisis suddenly emerges, threatening Mussolini's plans completely. Intelligence reaches Rome, warning of widespread dissent within the Italian military itself. Commanders, alarmed by the pace and scale of Mussolini's ambitions, secretly question his leadership. Whispers of revolt spread dangerously fast, prompting Mussolini to take drastic measures immediately. As rumors of internal dissent ripple through Italy's military ranks, Mussolini acts decisively, initiating swift purges to silence any opposition. Senior officers suspected of disloyalty vanish quietly, replaced overnight with fiercely loyal commanders. Loyalists fanatically devoted to Mussolini now dominate key positions, ensuring absolute obedience as the nation inches toward war. In Rome, the atmosphere grows increasingly tense. Families notice the sudden disappearance of fathers, sons, and brothers. Fear spreads quickly as whispers of military purges become common knowledge behind closed doors. Worried citizens question whether Mussolini's grand vision is worth the human cost. Yet few dare speak openly, afraid of severe repercussions. International intelligence agencies soon detect Mussolini's drastic internal moves. British MI6 and French Deuxième Bureau urgently report these developments to their respective governments, alarming diplomats across Europe. The stakes have never been higher, and Britain and France realize Mussolini might now be unstoppable unless they act swiftly and decisively. Britain responds by dramatically increasing patrols around the vital Suez Canal warships, and aircraft carriers deploy rapidly, their presence sending a clear message to Italy that any aggression will be met immediately and forcefully. London understands that control of the canal is critical, and losing it to Italy would cripple Britain's global influence permanently. France moves swiftly, as well, reinforcing its Algerian and Tunisian borders, thousands of additional troops fortify coastal defenses, building extensive fortifications day and night. Soldiers sleep in shifts, barely resting, as engineers erect barriers and artillery positions capable of repelling an Italian invasion commanders in Paris. Hope these preparations will deter Mussolini's ambitions. Across the Atlantic, America grows increasingly restless. Newspapers run daily headlines warning citizens of Europe's slide toward catastrophe. Public opinion slowly shifts toward intervention, as radio broadcasts detail Mussolini's aggressive policies. Political debates become heated, dividing communities and families. Nationwide, Americans begin stockpiling supplies, nervously anticipating another devastating global conflict. Germany capitalizes on the escalating tensions, formalizing its alliance with Italy in the Rome-Berlin axis. Diplomatic meetings result in a clear agreement to support each other's territorial ambitions. Hitler enthusiastically embraces this partnership, viewing Mussolini's aggressive posture as an ideal cover for Germany's own rapid rearmament and expansion plans. This Axis pact sends shockwaves through Europe. Britain and France now face a unified, formidable threat, forcing them into intense strategic discussions. Diplomats work feverishly, crafting military alliances and contingency plans. Governments mobilize their economies, shifting production toward wartime needs. Workers find themselves producing ammunition tanks and aircraft rather than civilian goods. Economically, Europe begins transforming factories previously. Manufacturing consumer products switch abruptly to military production. Automakers like Fiat Renault and Rolls-Royce halt civilian vehicle assembly, converting their plants to produce tanks, trucks, and warplanes. Millions of workers face drastically altered jobs, working extended hours under immense pressure, aware their labor supports a looming conflict. Inside Italy, Mussolini ramps up propaganda. State-controlled radio broadcasts deliver constant patriotic messages. Newspapers filled with heroic images of military strength circulate nationwide. Children attend school programs emphasizing national duty, loyalty, and obedience, indoctrinated early to support Italy's aggressive ambitions without questioning the devastating reality awaiting them. Yet, despite the extensive propaganda campaign, ordinary Italians start noticing shortages. Everyday goods become scarce. Rationing quietly begins as the government diverts resources toward military buildup. Prices rise steadily, causing families to struggle financially. Private frustration grows, but remains hidden beneath outward displays of patriotic enthusiasm. The Vatican breaks its silence, openly criticizing Mussolini's aggressive policies. Pope Pius X issues encyclicals denouncing nationalism, racism, and militarism. Tensions explode publicly between church and state priests, preaching pacifism, face immediate arrest. Citizens loyal to their faith find themselves forced to choose between loyalty to Mussolini or obedience to their religious convictions. Mussolini retaliates swiftly, ordering raids on churches and religious institutions. Priests, bishops, and church leaders vanish overnight, creating panic among Italy's devout Catholic population. Government agents openly patrol religious gatherings, intimidating worshippers who question Mussolini's policies. Fear and paranoia become pervasive, affecting every aspect of Italian life. International outrage follows quickly. Newspapers worldwide condemn Mussolini's crackdown on religious freedom. Calls for action intensify, especially from America, where influential Catholic leaders demand President Roosevelt respond decisively. The global community debates passionately whether intervention against Mussolini's regime is necessary to prevent further human rights abuses. Roosevelt reluctantly addresses the American public, warning them of the growing threat in Europe. He announces emergency measures, including accelerated military production and increased naval patrols in the Atlantic. Americans understand clearly that war may soon involve them directly. Families prepare emotionally for the sacrifices they might soon endure. In Italy, Mussolini's government doubles down, tightening censorship, brutally suppressing dissent, and accelerating war preparations. Soldiers receive their final orders detailing invasion plans for key territories. Mussolini personally inspects troops delivering rousing speeches meant to steel their resolve. He knows his decisions have placed Italy irrevocably on a collision course with the rest of Europe. As the final pieces fall into place, European governments brace anxiously, ambassadors urgently exchange communications, trying desperately to avoid the inevitable conflict. Diplomatic tensions reach their breaking point as ultimatums and counter-ultimatums flood international communication channels. Every nation stands ready, expecting the first strike to come at any moment. Mussolini convenes his generals, giving the final green light for military action. Troops mobilize aircraft fuel, and armaments are loaded. Bases buzz with frantic preparations. Young Italian soldiers write hurried letters home, expressing bravery, masking deep uncertainty about their future families. Read these letters, sensing the catastrophic consequences just ahead. Europe waits in fearful silence, aware that war is now unavoidable. Civilians stockpile food and medicine, praying the conflict will be brief and limited. Politicians make last-minute appeals for peace, knowing they fall on deaf ears as militaries finish preparations. Troops stand at attention, waiting anxiously for the orders that will plunge Europe into chaos. Finally, Mussolini steps before the nation, one last time announcing Italy's irreversible march toward its glorious destiny. He proclaims war as necessary and inevitable, positioning Italy as a victim forced into conflict by European powers, unwilling to acknowledge its greatness. Citizens cheer publicly but privately. They tremble, recognizing the dark storm gathering around them, and as Mussolini's final words echo into history, the terrifying consequences of his 1936 address begin unfolding rapidly. Europe spirals uncontrollably toward disaster. Armies move relentlessly, borders collapse overnight, and millions hold their breath helplessly, awaiting a future filled with devastation, loss, and immeasurable suffering. The world watches powerlessly as Mussolini's bold promises become humanity's darkest nightmare.